So I just now have that lined up
When is
for
that coming?
April 20th. at the high school.
Yeah, okay, so that wouldn't be for me.
No, that would be in the fall. We would do
Okay, yeah.
city business, but we are, I debated. Oh, I've got all this going on. Vacation management.
I think that.
Firm, you take it off, everything you want. Hot tub.
All right, if I can have your all's attention, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I want to welcome everyone. I began with our pledge of allegiance. If you'll stand with us, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
this year, that pledge with our 250th anniversary, I know we're all working on various events and projects, and the pledge is always special, but this year it really makes us think about our founding fathers and all the wonderful things our country stands for. So thank you. We do have a quorum, I'm told. And let's move into the approval of the agenda. Okay with the agenda? I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion concerning that? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We do have an approved agenda. Next up, the approval of the minute. These minutes are from our January meeting. Motion to approve. Second. We have a second. Any corrections or changes to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving into administrative items, our finance administration, we're going to be talking about several items here. Number 6 is the ethics report. Joe?
So this may have been the month you thought I was going to report on something substantial. We have nothing ethical involving the board. I did speak with Tara on a small matter that possibly involves an employee, but nothing for the board at this point.
Right, thank you. Financial reports, our monthly financial report is going to be presented by Amanda, or yes, behind me, if I didn't see you back there. Amanda Cooper, you all met Amanda, I think, at our recent meetings.
Good
Welcome, Amanda.
afternoon. So we're pretty much on board with, the original budget, the to-date budget, and then in comparison to the previous year to date, not any significant swings one way or another. I've identified some things that, I'm gonna improve on processes internally that I think will have the budget and the actual expenditures monthly, quarterly, however you want to look at them, a little bit more in line, and getting reports to the programs, working more closely with the programs. I think I did mention last time, can we scroll down a little bit? I did add back, I mentioned in-kind match previously for back up. Yeah. But I do have it added back on mine. We have 130,000. I think that's important, like I mentioned last time, because it can help us in securing or maintaining grants that were given. Sometimes they require that, and you do look up and see the cash match. Sometimes that's another requirement, maybe not to originally secure the grant, but just to carry it forward or extend the grant. Sometimes they'll require a cash match in that instance. We did have, as we mentioned last month too, like personnel and professional services are a little bit higher, but we had some vacancies in the finance department specifically. And then of course our audit. So working with everyone actually to get all of the things ready for that. And then the last thing I had to report that's not up here is that we did hear back from the state and they have not requested to audit us. So we will continue with Barnes Denig for the next audit. Answer.
Any discussion, any questions for Amanda?
Thank you.
Yeah, so do I hear a motion to approve the, presentation? Receive the report. George, I think that is the second. Other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving financial reports, say aye. Opposed? All right. Item number 8 is our proposed annual meeting date of September 10th, and Tara is going to tell us a little more about.
So when the board approved the calendar for calendar year 2026, that was back in December, I believe. And we did not yet have some of the scheduled events like KLC conference and KCO conference and just all the various things that we're trying to avoid conflicting with for our annual meeting, which we always are trying to have in September. And so while the goal is to have the date of the annual meeting on the normally scheduled 4th Thursday of the month, that unfortunately is not possible. I believe it's conflicting with a judges conference. So the week prior to that is KLC. And so we are proposing to the board that your annual meeting which is when we have kind of more of a special event. It's off-site. We have a lunch, we have a speaker, we have awards. It's a little bit more of a celebration of the work that we do with partners and those outside of the board. We propose that would take place on Thursday, September 10th. And as we talked about at executive committee, just a little bit additional detail. We try to move that around the region. So for those that were on the board, you will remember we had a fantastic event in Gallatin County last year. And so this year, we will be moving back to Boone County, which has been a while since we've had the event in Boone County. So anyway, Boone County at lunchtime-ish, so like 11 to 1-ish, on September 10th, we are proposing for the annual meeting and seeking your approval.
I do see that is a day of, okay, their meeting. Several of us are on both, but I think we can send alternates. And with all the other challenges you have, I don't know how to avoid that. So
I don't really know either.
right. It is, unless, or another day of the week other than a
We
Thursday.
did actually look at other days of the week as well. We could have it maybe on a Monday.
Any thoughts? If there's any of you that are both, I think we're okay. I think we can send our alternate to OKI that day and still have it. I don't know if it would affect any sponsorships or anything like that. Probably not. I think we'd be okay.
If we decide in the next couple of weeks that it's not okay, we can definitely still revisit and come back next month to solidify the date.
You want to go on and approve the 10th, and then if we need to adjust it, we'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay with that? Let's go ahead and approve the 10th. I think we can make it work.
I'll make the motion, go with 10.
Here. A motion and a second. Any further discussion about that? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? They are.
Update your RSVP.
Pardon?
Are you gonna update your RSVP? RSVP, I think you sent one out.
I will update that. Yes, I will update the calendar invitation. At least once, hopefully only once.
Yeah, I think it's gonna work. Yep, and we've got it approved, so let's move forward with it.
Okay.
Okay, moving into programmatic, item number 9. The 27, 22 to 29 aging plan approval. And we have Ann with us.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to do and you'll be happy with this, for brief overview. If, I don't think anybody that's in the room was here for the public meeting, but that was very lengthy. It's very long, meeting to go through the entire plan. Not how it used to be. I'm in my 21st year. At the very beginning of my tenure here, the area plan was over 100 pages long. We've been able to condense that in, I think, 43 or 44 pages. Before I forget, Judge Moore, before if the plan is approved today, I do need your signature, so don't leave without me getting that, please. We do this plan, it's supposed to do it every 3 years. They did extend last year because ACL wanted to be, that's the Administration on Community Living, the federal entity that administers our Older Americans Act dollars. They wanted to be in alignment with the final rule. So it took a little time to get that organized with the states, and that finally happened. So we're back on a new schedule. And so our plan is for FY27 through FY29. So I'm pleased to present a brief overview, and in your packets, you do have an executive summary. The full plan is available on our website. This plan serves as a 3-year strategic roadmap to guide how we deliver our services, also to allocate resources and advocate for older adults, caregivers, and individuals with disabilities across our 8-county region. The plan fulfills requirements of the Older Americans Act while aligning our local priorities with state and federal direction. Currently, our region is home to over 104,000 older adults, and by definition, older adults are individuals aged 60 and older. Representing, I see some people looking around, yes, 60 and older.
I resemble that remark.
Same. And that represents about 10% of our total population. I'll just ad lib, that is going to just keep growing and growing. Nearly 1 in 4 older adults alone, 23% reside in rural areas, and over 10% are considered low income. Additionally, close to 10% require assistance with multiple activities of daily living. And this highlights our growing need for coordinated and accessible services, which we strive to provide here. Through this plan, we continue to administer a wide range of federal, state, and local programs, including nutrition services, caregiver support, Medicaid waiver programs, the state health insurance program, and long-term care ombudsman program. We also manage millions of dollars annually and rely on strong partnerships with providers, local government, and community organizations to expand our reach. Prior to the plan, we did a needs assessment based on over 600 responses from adults aged 50 and older. Then the assessment identified 3 key priorities: improving access to information about services, addressing transportation and mobility challenges, and supporting independent living and housing so individuals can age in place. Barriers such as fragmented information, limited rural transportation, housing affordability, and caregiver strain continue to impact our communities. In response, our strategic priorities for the next 3 years include the following: transportation coordination, especially in rural areas, launching a statewide public awareness campaign. So we're working with all the other ads on that goal, increasing volunteer engagement, strengthening mental health supports. We feel like that is very, very critical, and implementing targeted outreach based on population data. Finally, and I feel like this is probably most importantly, this plan established clear accountability measures and ensures compliance with the Older Americans Act and state requirements through the Department of Aging and Independent Living, while positioning our programs and services for long-term sustainability and continued impact. We want to be around for a long time to meet the needs of the older adults and people with disabilities in our community. We really do appreciate the board's leadership and support. My hype man isn't here. He's on vacation, I think, out of the country, in advancing this work and ensuring that we meet the evolving needs of older adults in Northern Kentucky. So with that, I'm seeking your approval of the 2027 through 2029 Regional Plan on Aging. Any questions?
You've heard the presentation. Any questions, any thoughts?
Motion to approve.
Second motion, you made a motion, I'll second.
Right. Motion and second. Further discussion. I'm glad you pointed out mental health because we are hearing and seeing through many of our programs, more and more demands when it comes to the mental health.
Yes. We've already been doing some things with mental health, but we're going to put a real strong focus on it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Well done. Motion approved.
Thank you.
And now item 10 is the Age Well invoice.
Yes, so the Age Well invoice is for an initiative through the Kenton County Fiscal Court. We are the fiscal agent for this initiative, Age Well Kenton County. You might wonder how are we connected with the University of Maryland, Baltimore County? So they have a gerontology program, and one of their postdoctoral students is a Covington resident. And some of you might know her name is Laura Allen. And Laura has led this initiative, as well as some of the individuals from the gerontology program at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And this is for services rendered. They got a little bit, the payments are kind of designed to be spaced out, but they got a little bit behind in the billing. So requesting for reimbursement, again, we are the fiscal agent, so this is a pass through. So requesting to reimburse them for expenses billed from July through December of $78,559.43.
What is the pleasure of the board?
What is it they actually do?
So they did they wrote a grant to do a assets-based assessment of for Kent County based on older adults and services. It's very intensive assessment that they're doing.
I'll just say, just to clarify, this is one way that the ad sometimes can just help enable regional collaboration or regional projects. So Kenton County wanted to do this project. They had a grant program where they put out a request for proposals for kind of community service type entities to make proposals. This was one of them. They needed a fiscal agent that was in state. So they said, hey, we'd really like to investigate more deeply what's happening with our old adult population in the county. Would the ad be willing to serve as just pass through? He said, are we going to need to, devote staff time? No, not really any more than what you would normally do because through the council on aging and the work. So we were able to serve in this capacity. But just because of the size of the check, we want to make sure we're always bringing any payments, even if they're just pass-through payments, to the board for transparency purposes. But this is not that different than, say, the Joni Bernard Foundation's spay and neuter program or one of those other kind of pass-through things that the ad can just enable to occur to support our local governments. So if anybody else wants to do a special project, talk to us about it. Happy to have that conversation and see if we can make that work for you as well.
Other discussion? Another question? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. I just was looking at that after I did that. Yeah, we better get a motion and a second. I see a motion from Nick, seconded from Mayor Hamburg. Now, any further discussion? Hearing none, we will now vote again. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Motion passes. Number 11, meal waiting list.
As promised, we're going to give a brief update on our meal waiting list. So currently you do have you do have an infographic in your packet on that. So currently we have 288 individuals on our waiting list. And then in the middle shows what we have spent thus far and what we have remaining. We are about 4% over. We're still projecting about a $95,000 deficit that we're gonna use local funds. However, we got some good news today, potentially good news. I'll be able to confirm that hopefully next month. I was on our projection call with the state before the meeting today. And some of the other ads are not able to spend all their state money. So they're doing some reorganization. And so there is a possibility they're going to be able to provide us with some money to help offset that deficit so that we won't have to use some of our local philanthropic dollars. So we will know more in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I'll give you a report when we begin in March. So I will let you know.
Any questions about this? No action required today.
Yeah, and then the next just shows how many people we have active and then our attrition rate.
Nick, did you have a question?
I really appreciate the update. We talked, I guess, a couple meetings back about this. But do we know how we compare per capita to other NKADD? Just sheer numbers, how we compare in folks on.
Some are higher than we are. There are several that are higher than we are. We started out this process in pretty good shape. Like our deficit, that $95,000 mark is minimal for compared to some of the other ads faced major deficit. Like that 95,000 won't hit until the last month of the fiscal year, until June. Some of the other ads we're going into the year being in a deficit 1 month or 2 months into the year. So we were in much better shape than several.
One comment I can just add to kind of clarify too, because this money, the state money, is the funding that the General Assembly worked with the governor's team to find that 9.1 million that was found kind of mid-year, if you will. The reason that some of the other area development districts that I want to seem like, oh, they calculated wrong. What happened was when the deficits were determined that the state had originally said that they were gonna, keep everybody whole. And then in September, they kind of just all at once with the letter said, actually, no, good luck. KIPTA and some of the other ads, KIPTA in particular in Louisville, they knew they had a major problem. They had over $1 million deficit. They asked the cabinet if they could transfer funds from their home care work into meals to try to stem this issue and not have to take people off of receiving meals that were already dependent on them. The cabinet said yes, and they enabled them to make that transfer. When that additional funding was found, they did not enable KIPTA to send that money back into home care. And so then KIPTA's, their estimate that had been the case all along of how much money was needed, that was included in the 9.1 million. And then KIPTA was like, wait a second, we'd like to make home care whole. And they said no. So that's why there's some funding that's going to be available that's not spent, because unfortunately KIPTA, and I think one or two other ads in the same situation where they made very immediate, to try to stem that issue, and then they couldn't reverse it once additional funds were made. Super frustrating for all involved. But since we, every ad out of that 9.1 million was given an allocation, many of us were left with still a little bit of a gap. We weren't worried about it because we do have philanthropic dollars, but we certainly would like to save those until the last possible use. So this additional issue that KIPS is having is actually going to be great for us. We're going to hopefully, if the state comes through on what they've said this morning, we'll be able to then repurpose those funds, use down the 9.1 million and kind of work. Hopefully that sort of answers that question.
And we wouldn't have the home care dollars, our home care dollars are projected to be spent. And fortunately, I'm glad of that, because if we would have transferred over money, we would have been in that mode too, which would not have been good.
All right. I forgot we had some folks online today. So hopefully I haven't been ignoring you. Or did I hear someone going to make a comment or ask a question concerning this item? Okay. All right. Back to our audience here. Any further discussion on this? Again, no action needed today. This is an update.
Thank you.
All right. Let's talk commodities. Tara, you're going to give us an update on where we stand here.
Yes, sir. All right. This will be brief, but happy to answer any questions. At the last meeting, I did let the board know that I was working on dealing with a funding shortfall related to our commodities program. If you're not familiar with that program, it's actually 2 grants. One is we call it TFAP, stands for the Emergency Food Assistance Program. That is food that comes to us through the USDA, through the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and then comes to our food bank, which is a warehouse on Tobin Drive, and then out to pantries throughout a 10-county region. Still getting the food, but the operational dollars required to, pay the electric bill, pay our rent, things like that. We have a contract with the state, but due to federal policy changes, unfortunately, the state has not been able to pay our full contract invoices every month now for quite a few months. And so they're projecting about a 15 to 20% shortfall from what would be in our contract. I'm just going to say the word contract a couple more times. So anyway, we have an anticipation of having a certain amount of money in this contract, and it's not going to come through. We also run the CSFP program, which is the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. That's food that goes out to often senior centers or other pantries that gets boxed and given to low-income seniors on a monthly basis to help supplement the food that they have to feed their families. And so just a little bit different because it's only for seniors. That makes up, if you think of commodities as a whole, the 2 programs, the senior food box program is about 20% of the whole, and the TFAP is about 80% of the whole. So if you want to go to the other page, Clay, the last page, yeah, that one, that will show you at the bottom, if you go to the bottom. So we were going to have about almost $100,000 shortfall as a result of the projections that the state was able to give. It's a little squishy. We don't really like squishy here. We like precision. But based on what they were saying, it was looking to be nearly $100,000 shortfall. So if you go back up, sorry now, Clay, to the colorful sheet, what we did in collaboration with the executive committee is as a one-time thing, we have gone to our fiscal courts, 10 of them. You'll see the words Bracken and Mason at the bottom of that chart because we do support food pantries in Bracken County and Mason County as well. I did reach out to the Buffalo Trace Area Development District Executive Director Kevin Ornett to closely partner with him and have that conversation. And we have asked our fiscal courts for support. If you see the different color columns, what that is different ways of trying to figure out how we can meet that $100,000 gap. They're under no obligation to do this for us, but we just try to figure out what would be a fair, even thing to ask. So the first in green, if you're able to see that color, is population, just percentage of the population of 10-county area. The blue, the kind of center part, is TFAP poundage, so pounds of food that are distributed in each of the counties. And you can see different proportionality there. In some cases, the next section is number of pantries in each county because there's staff time associated with those different interactions with each individual county. Some counties have more smaller pantries. Some counties have fewer but larger pantries, right? So it's sort of a little bit sometimes different. And then the last column is a average of all of them, to all those figures to try to get just general ask. I have been working on this fundraising. I'm not finished. I've primarily been just doing this myself versus involving too many of our other staff because I think it's important for me to have these conversations. So I'm not quite finished. I've worked with 6 out of the 10 so far. All of the counties have received a letter, but then we're having conversations. I'm pleased to report that we have now fundraised, at least with verbal commitments, just over $66,000 in the last month. I'm very grateful to the fiscal courts that have already voted or in other ways made these commitments. They're not necessarily solidified yet, so I wasn't planning on naming them unless you really, really want me to, but I'm very, very grateful for all of those collaborations. I can say now that they're finished with voting that both Carroll and Campbell County Fiscal Court did vote to make those allocations. And so simultaneous to this effort, I have been working with United Way of Greater Cincinnati in order to, and it looks like I have obtained, I don't have the grant document yet, but it's looking like we might get some additional support for me to participate in a 6-month-long deep dive into the food insecurity system of our Greater Cincinnati region. And participation does come with some additional funds. If we are able to receive those funds, I will allocate them to this issue. If there's any shortfall in our under $100,000 funding, I just do want to point out this is for this fiscal year. So I am simultaneously working with the executive committee and just thinking about and trying to understand from the staffing standpoint and with our contact at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, what are the prospects for full funding in future years and what's the sustainability? So I anticipate you'll be hearing about commodities again next month and probably for the next few months as we determine next steps and make sure that we are not signing up for administering a program that is not financially. But I am very pleased to report that I feel like based on how we're projecting forward, we should be in good shape to finish out the fiscal year appropriately and to pay all of the bills that are just basic operating costs associated with this program. Happy to answer any questions.
Those pantries, are they church pantries or are they?
It varies.
it varies.
Yeah, sometimes it's a church, sometimes it's a larger nonprofit like Brighton Center. It really just depends on the community and whether that entity has decided that they want to sign up to receive food. Sometimes I was just talking with our staff, we're working on getting data on the exact proportion that the TFAP food makes up in their total food that they're able to give out. Some pantries are buying food, some are getting food from Free Store Food Bank. Some, this is a huge proportion, some it's smaller. It kind of just depends on the situation for that particular pantry. But working on trying to get a little bit better handle on what the proportionality is. Some entities, because it's government funding, often we do have some like eligibility requirements like income that are associated with this program. Some pantries, they don't want to ask. They sort of just want to say if someone's coming, they say they need help, they just want to do that. And that unfortunately, and that's just not part of what TFAP is. You do have to verify income. So some pantries elect not to participate. Great question.
All right, other discussion concerning this commodity audit? Work in progress and to be continued.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure the board was aware. Thank you.
All right. Workforce. Corey's with us today. He's going to tell us about the WIOA request and proposal.
Good afternoon. As most of you know, the NKADD is home to the Northern Kentucky Workforce Investment Board. The Northern Kentucky Workforce Investment Board is charged with the administration of WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. which is a federal act of the Department of Labor. As part of that program, services are primarily delivered through the network of Kentucky Career Centers in our 8-county region. And as part of federal law and state policy, the WIB, the Workforce Investment Board, is required to subcontract out services to operate the Kentucky Career Centers and to deliver workforce services for job seekers and employers through the Kentucky Career Center. We are required to subcontract out those services at least every 3 years. We could choose to do that more often if there is a need to do that. But I'm talking with you today just to give you information that we are in the midst of that RFP process right now. As with any contract, this board would have to vote to approve all contracts. So I expect to be coming back to you during the May 28th meeting to ask for approval on a new subcontracts to deliver services through the Kentucky Career Centers for businesses and job seekers and to operate the Kentucky Career Centers. So today is just a heads up that we're in the process, and I will be coming back to you in May to ask for your vote to approve those contracts. Happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion? I'll probably date myself when I say this, but I remember when I was young, we used to refer to the centers as the unemployment office. Remember that? Unemployment office, and the idea of career center and employment opportunities is much better than unemployment. So, yeah.
Sorry, Judge. Unfortunately, we sometimes still are referred to as the unemployment office. We're trying to reverse that.
Absolutely.
You remember the one you at the end of the bridge?
Right there at the end of the shortway,
So bad.
which is now closed.
So I think we're good, we're on the same page.
That's where I remember. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else before we move on? Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
All right. Committee reports, Water Management Council. I know there's been a meeting of the council and we have a report today. Grace is going to tell us about this. While Grace is coming up, I didn't introduce our guests today, and I look around the room. I think we just have one, and that's Megan from Senator McConnell's office. So Megan, welcome. Were there any other guests that I missed? This right. Very good. Grace, floor is yours.
So the Water Management Council is made up of city officials, county officials, water management systems, and wastewater management systems from our 8 county regions. So we get together 4 times a year to talk about different projects, do approvals of projects for the WRIS, which is our state process, as well as to learn about what's going on with the different water systems and wastewater systems within our 8 county region. So we actually had our spring meeting yesterday. We had that down at Grant County Public Library. So as part of this process, we actually have to, if you want to do a new water project or wastewater project or rehab or anything along those lines, it has to go through what is called the WRIS portal. And in order to do that, it has to be approved at these meetings. So yesterday we went through and we had 1 new project that was submitted. And then we had 40 projects, I believe, that had modifications to them. We also write down which projects are under construction, as well as which ones have been completed. And this is done at a state level, so that can also be seen through the WRIS portal. And then we also talk about things along the lines of, we are working with Kentucky Rural Water Association on doing a salary survey. We are currently working with the Energy and Environmental Cabinet on doing an update to Kentucky's infrastructure report card. And we are working on updating our priority project. So one of the things that we do at the Water Management Council is at the end of every year, we create a list from our 8 county region of the priority projects for water and the priority projects for wastewater. And those are all sent to the state to help influence which projects get funded. for this upcoming year. So we did this last year. We had 20 projects from 7 counties for water, and we had 16 projects from 6 counties for wastewater. I actually have summaries of those lists in the back if you would want to see them afterwards. And then we also do site visits. So between January and May, we visit every single wastewater and water system within our 8-county region to make sure that we are doing the needed updates for the state.
Right. Questions for Grace? Great report. Appreciate that. No action required here either. Agency overview. First, we have our executive director report, Tara.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be
Pretty much everything.
closing us out today.
I was gonna say you got the rest of it.
I do. I don't have too many other things, but I just wanted to talk briefly with this board. Sometimes when we have a little piece on the agenda, we want to take a moment to just make sure that you do understand things like what Grace described, some of these sort of administrative roles that the app plays. And today I want to take another opportunity to make sure that the board is aware of how we're working to achieve the items that were outlined in our strategic plan. And so there's a number of ways that we're working on the strategic plan. Some of the plan, and I'm sorry, I should have printed out a copy for you, but today we're going to be talking about the community outreach components. The plan also talks about things like board makeup, which we worked on a lot last year. It talks about staffing organization, which we've worked on in a number of times throughout the last 2 years. But today, I think it's important to make sure that you all know that we are spending a lot of time thinking about how we are interacting with our communities and trying to do the best that we can to make sure that we not only know our communities, but that we are being responsive to each of your needs. And so in front of you on the screen, you can see a report. It says Q2 projects and activities. This is a report that we were always doing called the JFA report, Joint Funding Administration. So in the budget, combined state and federal funds give us the funds to do economic community development assistance. So writing grants, administering grants, helping communities get started and administering community development block grants, as well as doing other projects and activities that would be considered maybe public administration, like tax rate calculations, staffing meetings of professional organizations such as the City County Administrators Association or the Municipal Government League or the Public Works Association, things of that kind. And so we were always doing this report. We send it quarterly to Frankfurt, but we're trying to do better than that. That was fine. That was kind of a baseline. We really want to be able to show you, I think, Clay, if you could go to like the bar chart. Yeah, perfect. So we've now started using an app. We actually have 10 free licenses, so it's not costing us anything. This is in your packet as well. We started using an app called Monday.com. It's a project management app. And so rather than just kind of putting this in Excel and having it just go to the state, we put it in Monday.com, and that allows us to do some analytics on, well, what kind of services are we doing most? What kind of work are we being asked to do, and where are we doing it? Is it more regional? Is it more in one particular community, et cetera? This is just for Q2, right? So we can do this analysis, and we're getting better at it by being able to do year long. We just kind of started, so we'll be able to give you better data as we move along. But I think it's kind of interesting, you know, technical assistance. So that might be a community calls and says, how do I right, insert information? And we might help, again, tax rate calculation. It might be a personnel policy. It might be any number of things that the community calls and says, hey, I just need somebody to kind of help me, you know, think through this. And maybe it's a community that has a ton of staff, but this is a specialized need like procurement. Chris Courtney and his team have been working on joint procurement efforts to help communities buy vehicles, which is really challenging, especially because getting vehicles can take years now. Or it might be for a really small community that maybe only has a part-time clerk and, you know, they need something more substantial. So anyway, technical assistance is kind of the number one thing you'll see for Q2 that we were able to do. And then the colors correspond to the bottom. Now, the challenge that I see here that I didn't notice until just now is that the order of the colors at the bottom is not the same order of the colors in the bar chart. So I will get with the team to make sure that that happens in the future, because if you cannot see color, that is not going to work for you. So sorry about that. I will get that info fixed for the next time we get together. I will just also point out, if you go kind of along the left-hand column here, the second item is planning and stakeholder meetings. We do a lot of meetings here, so I'm not shocked that that's the second highest. And then project development and project administration. Those are the two areas that we are looking to grow, because when we did our strategic planning part and we had all those focus groups, we know that you will ask us to help you get ready to write grants and to get grants. So in order to do that, a lot of work has to go in to have to be ready to even apply. And we know that a lot of those open periods for grants are very short. So if you have an opening for a grant and you say, oh, I'd love to apply for that, well, there may be only a month. So if you need a budget, if you need environmental study, guess what? Too late. Like we can't do it. So we want to make sure that all of our communities that need help are prepped. That's why we started the community development planning team has been going out and doing community forums. We've now had 3 of them. The first one in Carroll County, we had about 50 people the night before a snowstorm, so I'm going to count that as a win. Let me see, Gallatin County, we had over 70 people, and then in Grant County, we had about 35-ish people, which was great. And so we were able to talk to the community and the elected officials and say, what are your goals? What are your goals with water? Like Grace was talking about, what are your goals with transportation, et cetera? If you don't want to work with us, it's totally fine. But we want to be there if that's needed to help all of our communities move their projects forward. We also know in Boone, Kent, and Campbell, there's other entities like Boone County Planning Commission, Planning and Development Services of Kenton County, et cetera. In Campbell County, Fiscal Court has a team. So this might not be a service that works for everyone, but we know in our southern counties, this is something that's been asked for. So I just want to make sure everybody can see kind of like what we've been up to. You can, and we're going to be trying to provide this information on a more regular basis so that you can see how all of that works. Last thing about this, coming up this afternoon from 2 to 4, we are also hosting in partnership with the 5Co Area Development District and the Buffalo Trace ad, something we're calling Meet the Funders. It's a 2-hour deep dive into pretty much every funder that we think of. And so if you want to sign up, we're going to have a watch party available in here, but it is an hour after the meeting, so you might want to go back to where you were. It's also available online, so you can, if you want to hear from DLG, you want to hear from FEMA or any of those, we're going to have them all available to give a little shout out. And then we're not going to do questions during the event, but people can put questions in the chat, and then we're going to send out like a full answer of all the questions via email, kind of a report out after the event, probably next week, I would think. So anyway, that is my update about community engagement. Does anyone have any questions?
Very good overview. Questions, thoughts?
I kind of covered both A and B. I was just going to let you know about legislative updates in your packet. Well, your email, I did send just kind of like a very lengthy, we're just going to go through all of these. But just that, if you wanted an update, if you have a bill and you don't have a bill tracker available to you, the Kentucky Council of Ads does have a bill tracker that they pay for and that we can access. So if you have a bill and you want me to add it to the tracker, I'm happy to do that and get you reports. But mostly I've been tracking House Bill 500 because I'm curious about some of our programs and how their funding is going to be impacted. JFA that I just talked about being one of those. Also our water and wastewater management funds, home delivered meals funds, workforce funds, as well as programs that are not necessarily for the ad, but certainly impact and benefit your communities, such as the grant, KPDI, that's the Kentucky Product Development Initiative, and a few others like that. So it's a little inconclusive still how the more updated version of House Bill 500, which is the budget, includes or doesn't include some of those things I just mentioned. So that's probably the only thing I have to report, but I'll continue to keep this group updated as we know more. I'm happy to answer any questions or take direction if anyone. Yeah, Judge.
You know, with the ads and stuff here, you know, the jail 557 is really important to a lot of counties because we're working in a, you know, for our county this year, it's going to be a big budget change just to keep the jail open and keep it moving. So that's an important one for I know some of the county judges.
Absolutely.
I've got them. I printed off a list of the KLC sent us the day before yesterday too. That are at her, and ones that actually I guess they're progressing ones that we're concerned about more than anything. We were in Frankfurt yesterday and many of us talked to our legislators about this. I'll leave these for you as well.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much.
And something else that's extremely important.
Oh,
I'm making plenty copies there, so.
do you want to pass those down?
Yeah, in case somebody wants these, I'm gonna just pass them down.
Yeah, something else that's very extremely important to all of us is the road plan. And we know the work on transportation for the 5 southern counties of the ad is done, of the area is done here at the ad. And in Boone, Kenton, and Campbell, because we are part of the federal designation as the Metropolitan Planning Organization of Cincinnati, those 3 counties are done at OKI. So, but we a while back had a meeting of OKI and the transportation planners here because there's overlap. Sometimes it's a north-south. The east-west connections like 536 don't touch the southern counties. They definitely impact the southern county. So, but we're all collectively watching the road plan. I don't know what timeline is there, but I'm sure we'll be seeing more soon.
We definitely have provided all of the conversations from SHIFT directly to all the lawmakers involved to encourage them that a lot of effort was put in those prioritization processes for southern counties. And the team did talk with Representative Upchurch about those priority projects. I can also share, we did apply for a grant, a build grant was available for federal funds only for very specific census tracts. But one of those census tracts did include the highest priority project in the 5-county SHIFT plan, which was truck climbing lanes on I-71. So we did apply on behalf of that project as the ad to hopefully get some money to do some of the studies that would be required to move that project along in the process. So we just submitted that this week. That's all I have today.
Yeah, and the widening of I-71 from 75 all the way to Louisville is critical, and we know that touches, of course, Carroll, impacts Owen and Gallatin and Southern Boone, but it impacts us all, but it actually touches 4 counties there, I suppose. And something that we've worked collectively on through the ad and through OKI. Very high priority for us. Anything else on legislation? All right, announcements. Do we have any announcements today? Right, quiet group. Good, and we're 6 minutes ahead of schedule. With that, if there are no announcements or no other items of business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you for joining us. Keep an eye on those legislators.
You too.